I mean, you missed it when we
Part-time.
started in the morning. I said I went through a roller coaster of emotions, mainly all negative. No, all negative, not mainly. When I was thinking about a Trump presidency, but I landed on anger, right? That the Democratic Party let this happen. Like, man, how did you, in their smugness, their arrogance, their complete, disregard for facts, polling, science, and they just saw
the mission of their party.
Yeah, they just saw what they wanted to see, and so to them, and this is a lot of people misunderstand this. You think, well, they miscalculated. If they had realized Bernie actually had a better chance, they would have put Bernie up, but they just screwed that calculation up. No, to them, Bernie was as dangerous, if not more dangerous than Donald Trump.
To be fair, I don't think that's the point that Michael was making. When he was talking about the miscalculation, he's saying inside of the general election, they didn't campaign in Wisconsin, blah, blah, blah.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I'm not talking about Michael. And, I know Michael, and we've had 1,000 conversations about that. I'm talking about the guys that you see on TV and the Democratic Party officials, right? For them, think about it this way, okay? And you think, no, come on, are people this selfish? They don't say that to themselves, but they got to, be able to sleep at night. But what they actually think is, and realize the consequences is that if Trump wins, most of them still have their job in the Democratic Party. If Bernie Sanders wins, they don't have their jobs because Bernie's going to bring in progressives and not lobbyists and people who are pro-corporate, pro-establishment, et cetera. So for the establishment of the Democratic Party, not the voters, but the establishment of the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders was more dangerous than Donald Trump. So they would rather have Trump risk that Trump might win, and even though Bernie had much better numbers, so that's the risk they're taking, then let Bernie Sanders represent them. Because it's for them, it's their money. It's their money that's on the line and their jobs that are on the line.
Yeah. Well, wait, quick thought experiment though. Just trying to understand all sides. So when we were looking at the polling showing Bernie matched up against, because it wasn't just Trump at that point, he was also beating all of the other candidates. Way better than Hillary was. We found that to be a very good reason to go in that direction. He's much more likely to win. But hypothetically, if the polling had showed that she was far more likely, would we have found that to be a very persuasive reason to switch over to supporting Hillary Clinton? Well, if they represent very different visions of the future of the party?
Well, it depends.
I don't know that I would have switched during the primary.
I hear you on that, and it's a terrific point, John. But it depends on the circumstances. So, for example, if you said to me, Bernie Sanders, it looks like he's going to lose by 10 points to Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton is going to win by 10 points against Donald Trump. So now, if you go for Bernie Sanders, who is more ideologically close to you, significantly closer to you, okay, but you're going to risk losing to Donald Trump and having this happen. I would pause. I would significantly pause. They had no pause at all because they're like, who cares? It's my job on the line.
Okay, I feel like the question, though, is flawed. No offense.
Well, it's a hypothetical.
No, it's not even because it's a hypothetical. It's flawed because I don't care if someone who genuinely likes Hillary Clinton as a candidate and believes in her continues to vote for her, even though she's unlikely to win against Trump. What I care about is what the DNC and the establishment does to choose and favor and push for one candidate over the other, right? The way that they manipulated the primaries was the biggest problem to me. So, look, if I were Debbie Wasserman Schultz and I saw those poll numbers, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should all stop being dicks. And maybe we should allow Bernie Sanders' message to get out there because it seems like members of our party favor him over the person that I personally like. You see what I'm saying?
They didn't give him a fair hearing.
They didn't. And that's the problem.
Because is Bernie Sanders going to pick Debbie Wasserman Schultz as the head of the DNC? No. He's not, and she knows it. And is Hillary Clinton going to protect her? Well, A, she was the chair of her campaign back in 2008. So Hillary Clinton would hire her. Obama hired her to help Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And then after she was let go by the DNC, who hired her? Hillary Clinton. So she knows exactly where her bread is buttered. And to her, that contest was so much more important than Trump. So now they countenanced a loss, and a loss we got. So I think this Comey, Russia, weather, all those things could be relevant. But the bottom line is it's 100% on their head because they wanted to take that chance, and that's what led to this.
Well, let me just kind of reword, because on aggressive progressive, I made a similar point that the corporate Democrats right now, the hedge fund managers, the Silicon Valleys, the Wall Street Democrats, the people who were classically Republicans who Bill Clinton then brought into the party, those people are actually more comfortable with not that they're happy, but they're more comfortable with the Donald Trump presidency than a Bernie Sanders presidency. Because a Bernie Sanders presidency would have maybe broken up the banks, would have put regulations on what they had to do. Who knows what they would have done. So yes, I really do believe that they are not that they're happy with Donald Trump, but they're more comfortable financially with Donald Trump being president than Bernie Sanders. Because let's remember, as Kshama Sawant made the point on the aggressive progressives, that the DNC's first order of business, because they're in bed with Wall Street and Wall Street's agenda is diametrically opposed to workers, their first order of business was to defeat the agenda of the workers, meaning defeat Bernie Sanders. And that's what they did. And they propped up Donald Trump. So go ahead.
So, and lastly, to just back up Jimmy's point here, if you think about it, Donald Trump didn't bring you any change. Hillary Clinton would have put Goldman Sachs people in her cabinet. Donald Trump put Goldman Sachs people in his cabinet. You know, stock market would have been happy with Hillary Clinton. Stock market's happy with Donald Trump. There's no real change here, as usual. Same, you know, you got change on the outside, continuity on the inside.
There is going to be significant change. In the wrong direction when it comes to
on
lots of
social issues. On social issues, there's going to be significant change. Okay, but as far as the people with money and power, who would they rather have? Bernie Sanders, who's going to give them real change? They don't want that change. Or Donald Trump, who doesn't like Latinos and black people or pretends not to get votes. I don't know what it is. But in reality, didn't touch them. He didn't touch the powerful. All he did was help them.
Okay, but you're discounting things outside of social issues and economic issues. You're discounting the number of people who are going to suffer under privatizing education. You're discounting the number of people who are going to suffer because, and by the way, Hillary Clinton was very far from perfect when it came to the issue of climate change, okay? But I would argue that Donald Trump is way worse when it comes to the issue of climate change.
No, but Anna, I'm not talking about that. Look, I just want to be super clear because I'm not talking about the actual effect on human beings. Of course, Trump's 1,000 times worse. I'm talking about the powerful. They don't care. The oil companies don't care about climate change. They want They want to keep drilling. So they're happier with Trump. They would have despised Bernie Sanders. They love Donald Trump. I'm talking about the powerful. I'm talking about the rich. I'm talking about the establishment, right? So when you break it down, your kids aren't going to get an education. Great. I get to keep more of my money. I pay less in taxes. I don't even want your kids getting an education. I was just down in South Carolina and I visited a slave plantation and it was amazing. What's the first thing that the slave owners did? Made sure the slaves never got an education. Uh-huh. Never teach them reading and writing because they might rise up. I need them to be working on that farm for me and not making any money, okay? So the powerful, they would have gotten Clinton, they got Trump. The one guy they didn't want was Bernie Sanders. And look at that. The DNC, the RNC, and everybody, and the media worked to kill Bernie Sanders' campaign. What a wonderful news. And now they know he's popular, and all of a sudden, and Jimmy, you pointed this out before, all of a sudden he's the belle of the ball. Uh-huh. He's all over MSNBC.
Can't keep him off now.
Now, when he was running in 2015, all the primetime news, I think, gave him 11 minutes of coverage and gave Joe Biden's not running 56 minutes of coverage. Yep. Okay, now that he didn't win, they're like, give us the ratings. Give us the ratings. I'll give you town hall after town hall. Before, I wouldn't even look at you because God forbid you win. Now we have Trump. That's on the media. That's on the establishment. That's on the Democratic Party. Okay, so I'm tired of the corporate Democrats. In fact, I'm on Monday. I have a very important announcement coming up. Don't miss Monday's show. 6 o'clock Eastern on Monday. I'm going to tell you about a new direction we're going to take the Democratic Party. I'm done with the corporate Democrats. You all are done with them. Now they're having a debate. Look, I love Keith Ellison, and he's running for the head of DNC and all that. But they're sitting there having a debate. They say, yes, we should take billionaire money. Yes, of course we should take corporate money. Should we take lobbyist money? That's a tiny fraction. They really sneak it in through corporate money, really. The lobbyists is just but even that they can't say. They even got Keith to come back on it, saying, maybe we should take lobbyist money, right? Then what's the point? What's the point? You're a useless party for the rich and powerful. So we got to change the party. That's not their party, that's our party. Time to board the ship and take it over.
Yes.
If you want to see this happen, donate $3, $20, $27, whatever you can afford. You know that if everybody that's watching this video donated right now, we could stop the fundraising because we'd have enough. So go to tytnetwork.com/go. We'll wait while you make the donation. Thank you for doing it and for building a great new journalism team. And thanks for watching.